Hey yo, this is Luke99, aka The Real Shuriken, and I'm using this video to highlight an issue with Marvel Rivals. And I do want to say that this is a phenomenal game. Like the game itself, like the gameplay and everything, like it's phenomenal. But the matchmaking is very predatory, and which creates a serious problem. Particularly in a competitive environment, which this game is competitive and houses tournaments, multi-million-dollar tournaments. Um, and you would think that this would be a game that would truly focus on skill, but it doesn't. And it believes these companies believe that they can make more money under this system. And to be honest, as a person that both has worked in IT and in the finance industry for decades, I would straight up like fire whoever's making these decisions, because they're leaving way too much money on the table. That this is unacceptable performance. If I was a shareholder of this company, like I would be blasting the shit out of them. Um, this game has lost a lot of both casual and tryhards, aka competitive players. It has lost both communities by large amounts, and while it's still doing pretty well, just because, like I said, the game itself is phenomenal. Like, if you disregard matchmaking, this is probably one of the top games right now out there. Um, but because matchmaking, unfortunately, is part of the system, um, it kind of like taints, this game's, quality. And I tried to explain. After playing, I've played almost 1,000. I started season 4, so season 4, 4.5 is the same season. It's just half a season, but it's still the same season. So in season 4, I've played almost 1,000 competitive matches. So I've gathered enough data in this game um, to be pretty certain on what I'm saying. Not just that, but the next video, I'm going to actually show how, unless you are an account that has favorable standing with the company, or unless you're cheating, there is no way in hell for you to basically like put out the performance that of the specific account that I will use as an example, and all the numbers that I will crunch and show. This game essentially, like, it claims that it doesn't have EOMM, so engagement optimized matchmaking, but whatever it does have, even if it's classifying it as something differently and they're technically not lying, it is certainly not a skill-based game, and it is wholeheartedly optimizing for engagement. And the evidence, it's unrefutable. Like so this game over here, let me check the stats. So in this game here, excluding one player that's known notoriously for throwing games and who threw this game also, that's the Black Widow player, who AFK'd the entire first round and had 0 on every stat. This player I've avoided, teaming with this player numerous times before. I've reported this player numerous times before. They've claimed that they restricted this player, but the restrictions are only like 15-minute restrictions. And after, like, I think 4 offenses or something, that's like an hour, but they don't put out any bans. And this player constantly goes around throwing. So I did not calculate this player's, I did not crunch the numbers in this player's account, because this player has the account completely restricted and it shows no information on it. But so the disparity between the win rate, the effective win rate of their team and our team, is only 3.9%, which is enough to get someone a leg up. And unless one team is locked in and the other one's not, they should be able to win. But that 3.9 is actually misleading, because that player that constantly throws matches has to have a very low win rate. Both in different measurements, not like in the account, per character, and just overall is it's effective, like, elo for skill. And so, because I didn't know, I didn't calculate it, but I would assume that if I were to calculate it, this game feels like there's a 10% difference, and I will explain the difference between. I will explain the difference in between win rate disparity between teams in detail when I show the numbers in my next video. But essentially, with a 10% difference, the team that has a 10% greater win rate is almost guaranteed to win. But they could potentially lose under very limited conditions. But for all intents and purposes, 10% disparity is a astronomical disparity when it comes to actually, historically, when it comes to matching for competitive games. A 10% disparity between teams, it's almost unheard of. Usually the disparity are very, very tight. It'll be anywhere between, a team being 50-50, 49-51, or, like when you get to like, let's say a 45-55, that's already like, for whatever reason, they couldn't find anyone to match and it's just a blowout. But if you thought that was bad, oh, no, 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 no. In Marvel Rivals, 10% disparity between a team is an anomaly. That's not even like the norm. Bro, I would show how teams have 20% disparity and even 30% plus disparity. Like, the only way that a team with a 30% disparity in win rate will lose is if something completely out of the ordinary occurred where it impeded at least half of the other team from playing, or outright killed the players. Like it had to be like aliens came down or something, like, or maybe a cyber attack that took down the entire grid and affected at least half of the team, and they just couldn't move or whatever. Like a 30% difference is what players experience when they get farmed from beginning to end, and every player in the team that's losing has 0 confirmed kills. So a 30% disparity is those games that you have that you were like, there was no hope. That was ridiculous. Like usually there'll be a skilled player, 1 or 2 skilled players in a team, and the other ones would be like, crappy players when you're in what people like to refer as a losing queue. So it'll be like everyone in the team has 0 kills, and then the top player in the team, which is usually substantially better than everyone else. And the system is actually trying to force them to lose, and it's matching them with people that are far, far less efficient and skilled than they are to force a loss. So that player will have a few kills, like 1 kill or a few kills or whatever, and everyone else have 0 kills. That's when you experience a team win rate disparity of 30%. When you experience 20%, and I'll explain this again in the next video, a 20% difference is when the other team can register a few kills, like several kills, but the other team is registering like, a multiple of the kills, like, usually it'll be like, triple the kills, or something like that, to the other team. And then 10% is usually when when the game feels kind of tight. The 10% is anything within the 10% range. Give or take a few percentage points. It's when you have those games where you're like, this is winnable, we can do this, but you actually cannot win it. And so what happens is everyone's like, this is winnable, right? And you go all out, you play the best game you've ever played, and you still lose, because the odds are so drastic when you're talking about statistically when one team has a 10% win rate, an average of 10% win rate greater, because like I said, historically, in other teams, this is not even a normal thing. This is like a very rare occurrence. And it typically signifies that you're almost guaranteed to lose. The only difference between this and a 20 or 30% difference is like those you're definitely guaranteed to lose, but you're not just going to lose. It's going to feel like hopeless. And that's where, people are registering 0 kills. So this game is insane. I've been playing games competitively for 3 decades, and I've never experienced a matchmaking as severe as this game here. And so like over here, I'm using Hulk, and I'm like really good with Hulk, and I think I have the highest win rate with Hulk. I only solo queue, so my win rates are not going to be what people are normally used to seeing as a good player. because if you solo queue in this game, you basically like have trash win rate. You have a negative win rate. But have higher win rate overall with Hulk. In this game here, as Hulk, I get the highest kills, the highest final hits, and the highest damage blocked. So essentially, I am the top offensively and defensively player out of both teams and still lose the match because of the guy that's throwing. And you see, what I'll explain later in the other video is that this is the people that are throwing. They've already been calculated in. They're part of the calculus to ensure that you do not win the fight. Because if I was in a winning queue, someone could literally log off the game and it would be a 5v6 from beginning to end and we will still win. Because I've had numerous games in the past that I'm in a winning queue and someone just gets disconnected, either disconnected purposely or they lost the internet, connectivity or whatever, like they had a bad connection. And I've won the game 5v6. Not only have we won the game 5v6, but sometimes we've bullied the other team 5v6. So when you're in a winning queue, so right there we lost a player. It was a 5v6, and it was when we comfortably won a 5v6, which means that likely in that game we had a 20 to 30% win rate favorability over the other team. So pretty much there's almost nothing you can do that will cause you to lose a game when you have that high favorability. And when you're in the opposite spectrum and you're in the losing queue, there is pretty much nothing that you can do to win the game. And by you, I'm not saying like one individual person is the hero. What I'm saying is that every player in the team attempting to do what they can, they still cannot win because you're just going up against odds that insurmountable odds, And that this is a major problem. And while we can get placement matches, and I believe placement matches will make this much better, I don't think is the full solution. I think it has to be a combination of multiple things, which I'll discuss in another video. But I think definitely, of course, placement matches are very good, moving in the right direction. And hopefully it'll happen in Season 5. All right, thank you for watching.